With Radio Algeria International, you will not miss a single major political or economic event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defence, Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Army General Said Changreha, started today a working visit of inspection to the 4th Military Region. Communication Minister Mohamed Mziane has called on Arab media to assume their pioneering role by producing objective and credible media content. A hearing was launched at The Hague by the International Court of Justice to shed light on the alarming situation prevailing in the occupied Palestinian territories. The International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, has said that the new hell has been unleashed on Gaza following the restart of Israel's war on the Palestinian territory. Hello and welcome on Radio Algeria International. I'm Miriam Bershi. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has extended his sincere condolences and expressed his deep compassion to the family of the 4 victims who died in a landslide that caused the collapse of 5 flimsy shelters in the province of Oran. In this respect, the Interior Minister, Brahim Merred, said that all families living in homes threatened with collapse in the site of the landslide in Senouber's neighborhood have been relocated following instruction given by the President Tebboune. Mr. Merred emphasized that all arrangements have been made with the Ministry of Housing and local authorities to take care of them. The minister reaffirmed that the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, pays particular attention to citizens wherever they are and calling for solidarity with the affected families and eliminating the dangers surrounding them in order to prevent such incidents from happening again. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has congratulated the Olympic champion Kélia Nemo for her gold medal won at the finals of the 2025 Gymnastics World Cup taking place in Cairo, Egypt. The President said Olympic gymnastics star Kélia Nemo made another victory for Algeria, making Algerians proud again. The gymnast excelled in the Innocent Bars competition, taking first place with an impressive score of 14,533 points. Her remarkable performance in this final convinced the jury, who awarded her the highest score of the competition, ahead of her Slovenian Lucia Hibrar with 1,333 and Egyptian Jadi Abdallah with 12,566. The Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defence, Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Army General Said Changreha, today started a working visit of inspection to the 4th Military Region. On the occasion, the General of the Army made an orientation speech followed by all the members of the 4th Military Region by video conference. Mr. Changreha stressed the need to counteract the dangerous use of dangerous, destructive and misleading propaganda and to reinforce the sense of security of individuals and groups. He listened to the concerns and interests of the members of the 4th Military Region, who expressed their determination to continue their efforts to fully accomplish the task entrusted to them, especially in the security of the borders and the protection of the national territory from all scourges and potential threats. Here in Algiers, the Minister of Communication, Mohamed Mziane, has called on Arab media to assume the pioneering role by producing objective and credible media content presented in innovative and attractive forms capable of contributing to a greater inter-Arab rapprochement. Asya Bikar has more details in this report.
In a speech made at the opening of the periodic meetings of Arab radio and television coordinators and communication engineers, Mr. Mziane urged Arab media outlets to produce objective and reliable content in innovative and attractive forms in order to promote positive interaction, strengthen Arab unity, uphold human values, and support stability and development.
I call on Arab media and communication outlets to fulfill their their missions and leading role by producing media content with objective and reliable substance in innovative and attractive forms, contributing to achieving greater positive interaction, Arab rapprochement, the promotion of exemplary human values, and the support of stability and development in all its dimensions.
Referring to biased media seeking to sow discord and destabilize Arab countries, the Minister of Communications stressed the need for Arab media to unite against such threats by reporting facts faithfully without distortion or manipulation, and by highlighting the efforts of Arab states in promoting development, good governance and democratic practices. In this context, Mr. Mezyan stressed the importance of these annual meetings as they allow for taking stock of the previous year, addressing noted shortcomings and proposing solutions to professional issues encountered. After expressing his gratitude to the Arab States Broadcasting Union for its efforts to strengthen cooperation among Arab audiovisual bodies, Mr. Mezyan affirmed that the new and victorious Algeria is committed to supporting sincere initiatives that strengthen Arab action and preserve the sovereignty and independence of Arab countries.
The new and victorious Algeria, with its wise leadership and its steadfast Arab nationalist orientations towards the various issues that concern the Arab nation, is always engaged and committed to valuing and supporting all sincere efforts aimed at strengthening the foundations of Arab action and promoting every sincere and joint work that benefits the Arab countries while preserving their sovereignty and independence.
He also reaffirmed Algeria's strong support for the Arab States Broadcasting Union and its Arab Center for Information and Program Exchange, highlighting the country's commitment to support projects, especially those related to information exchange and coverage of the Palestinian cause. For his part, Director General of the Arab States Broadcasting Union, Suleiman Abdulrahim, hailed Algeria's efforts, highlighting its hosting of the Arab Center for Information and Program Exchange and its steadfast commitment to Arab unity and progress under President Tebboun's leadership. He also emphasized Algeria's strong support for the Arab States Broadcasting Union's activities and initiatives.
And as mentioned in today's top stories, a week-long hearing on the humanitarian obligations of the Israeli occupying authorities towards the Palestinians was today launched at The Hague by the International Court of Justice, ICJ, to shed light on the alarming situation prevailing in the occupied Palestinian territories. Addressing the court, the representative of the State of Palestine, Ahmad Hijazi, affirmed that the Israeli authorities were using the blockade imposed on the humanitarian aid as a weapon of war in Gaza. He argued that all UN-run bakeries had been forced to close and that 9 Palestinians had no access to water since the Israeli occupying authorities. In his address, they denounced the deplorable situation prevailing in the besieged Gaza Strip.
As I address you today, the Palestinian people are being starved, bombed, and forcibly displaced by Israel, their unlawful occupier. Israel has not allowed food, water, medicine, and medical supplies or fuel into Gaza for the past 2 months. A policy supported by the highest court in Israel, which rejected petitions to allow aid into Gaza on several occasions. This man-made catastrophe of unprecedented proportions targets life itself. Death looms large, including by starvation, which has already claimed the lives of 59 Palestinian children.
The representative of the State of Palestine also denounced the atrocities and the campaign waged by the Israeli occupying authorities against the Palestinians with the aim of depriving them of almost everything.
Israel has been systematically dispossessing, uprooting, slaughtering and imprisoning Palestinians in absolute flagrant disregard for international law and the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people for 8 years now. It has done so with the intent to destroy our people and to thwart the realization of self-determination in their homeland. To implement this policy, Israel has waged a relentless campaign of erasure against Palestinian people, their demography, their material presence, their national identity, their history and heritage, and their very humanity.
A few days ago, the World Food Programme warned that the population of Gaza would be lacking food in the coming days as famine threatens the territory. The International Committee of the Red Cross ICRC has said that the new hell has been unleashed on Gaza following the restart of Israel's war on the Palestinian territory. The Director General of the ICRC, Pierre Carenboul, said Gaza is experiencing an enduring death, injury, multiple displacements, amputations, separation, disappearance, starvation, and denial of aid and dignity on a massive scale, and just when the all-important ceasefire led people to believe they had survived the worst, a new inferno was unleashed. He told the annual Global Security Forum in Doha that this includes the trauma of families of Israeli hostages who face a never-ending nightmare, and of the families of Palestinian prisoners. Over 408 workers and 1,000 healthcare workers have been killed in Gaza, including 36 from the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement. The international march of the release for the release of Sahrawi political prisoners has arrived in Girona, Catalonia. Upon arrival in Girona, the march was greeted by a large number of members of the Sahrawi community and Spanish associations defending the Sahrawi cause. The advisor to the City Council of Girona, Ami Sabali, said they will keep supporting all the acts and demands of the Sahrawi cause.
One of the pairing agreements that we have with Farsia is a pairing agreement between Girona and the Tindouf camps. Has been going on since 1997, particularly 30 years of struggle for the Sahrawi cause, which is a cause that moves and motivates as the Sahrawi people are being oppressed and their human rights are systematically violated. What we do from Girona is to accompany all the acts and demands, and what interests us is to continue to make the Sahrawi cause visible.
La causa saharaui.
That was the advisor to the City Council of Girona, Ami Sabali. The Iranian authorities have declared a day of national mourning today in memory of the victims of Saturday's explosion in the port of Shahid Rajai, which killed 28 people, injured nearly 1,400. Authorities declared an additional 2 days of mourning in Hormozgan province. Earlier, Iran's national broadcaster announced that the Iranian president, Masoud Pezeshkian, had traveled to Bandar Abbas, where the border is located, to assess the situation after the explosion. Canadians go to the polls today after an election campaign in which US President Donald Trump's tariff and musings about annexing Canada became the central issue. Trump's threats initiated a wave of patriotism that swelled support for Liberal Prime Minister Mark Carney, a political newcomer who previously led two G7 central banks. The campaign ended on a dark note after a man rammed an SUV through a crowd at a Filipino community festival in Vancouver, killing at least 11 people and injuring dozens. Carney briefly paused his campaign, and both he and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre mentioned the tragedy in their final campaign events. It was unclear if the mass casualty event would have any impact on the election. Duane Bratt, professor of political science at Calgary's Mount Royal University, said he did not expect it to deter voters. Carney's Liberal held a 4-point lead over Poilievre's Conservatives in separate polls by Ipsos and Angus Reid, suggesting little movement in the final days. The UN Security Council is holding today a closed-door meeting on nuclear non-proliferation. Masoud Sharfi has the details.
The meeting aims to provide an overview of the nuclear non-proliferation regime, which faces increasingly serious challenges, recalling that preparations are underway for the next review conference of the parties to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons (NPT), scheduled for the summer of 2026. The concept note highlights the Council's responsibility to address this security issue and to support the nuclear non-proliferation architecture, for which the NPT is the essential component. The objectives objectives of the NPT is to prevent the proliferation of nuclear weapons, to promote general disarmament, including nuclear disarmament, and to promote international cooperation in the peaceful uses of nuclear energy. Since the treaty entered into force in 1970, NPT review conferences have generally been held every 5 years, enabling state parties to review the implementation of the treaty, update its commitments, and make recommendations for achieving its objectives. At the meeting, the Council members will stress the need to address new proliferation risks, notably those arising from emerging technologies. Today's meeting coincides with the third and final session of the Preparatory Committee held until May 9th at United Nations headquarters, which will lay the foundation for the 2026 Review Conference by assessing current progress and challenges in nuclear non-proliferation and making recommendations to guide the agenda and negotiations of the conference.
That's it for today's news bulletin. Stay tuned on Radio Algeria International.
Hello and welcome to our weekly program devoted to Algerian economic news. First in the news, the Minister of Finance Abdelkarim Bouzred has revealed that the digitization of the tax sector will be completed within 2 years, enabling citizens to discharge their tax obligations remotely. Responding to a question about plans to set up local tax centers in the province of Jijia during a plenary session devoted to oral questions at the National People's Assembly APN, Abdelkarim Bouzred said that the lack of such facilities is a temporary problem, assuring that his sector was ready to examine the possibility of creating new centers to ease the pressure on citizens. He added that the sector is also examining the possibility of grouping together local and provincial centers to speed up the processing of cases. The Minister of Pharmaceutical Industry, Wassim Khuidri, has received a high-level delegation of Saudi businessmen with whom he discussed opportunities for cooperation and investment in the sector, according to a press release from the ministry. The meeting with the Saudi delegation, led by the chairman of the Joint Business Council, Raed El Mazrou', focused on the opportunities for strengthening economic cooperation between the two countries in the field of pharmaceutical industry, as well as the prospects for its development and the exploitation of partnership and investment opportunities in Algeria. The Saïda Group has signed in Algiers a commercial memorandum of understanding with the Mauritanian group Chingiti Pharma, aimed at strengthening cooperation between the two parties in a number of areas, including the supply of Algerian medicines to the Mauritanian market. The agreement was initialed by Saïda's interim CEO Soraya Sabah and the managing director of the Mauritanian group, which distributes medicines and pharmaceutical and medical devices, Amar Mohamed Najm, at the ceremony presided over by the Minister of the Pharmaceutical Industry, Wassim Khuidri. In more Algerian economic news, participants in the Algerian-Russian Business Forum held in Algiers have underlined the desire of operators from both countries to strengthen bilateral cooperation in several sectors in order to build a strategic economic partnership that is equal to the challenges. Organized by the Algerian Chamber of Commerce and Industry CACI at the Pain Maritime Palace of Exhibitions here in Algiers, under the slogan "Towards a Deeper Strategic Partnership," the forum was attended by Algerian economic operators and Russian businessmen representing a number of leading economic enterprises in various sectors. The Algerian Investment Promotion Agency API has welcomed the Russian delegation led by Sergei Katerin, president of the Russian National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, in order to inquire about the framework governing investment in Algeria, according to an API press release. During the visit, the Russian delegation, made up of the presidents of several regional chambers of commerce and industry, received explanations on the role of the agency as an instrument for supporting national and foreign investors at all stages of their projects, as well as on the advantages and incentives granted by law as part of the policy to promote investment that creates wealth, added value, and jobs. A cooperation agreement and a memorandum of understanding have been signed in Algiers between the Algerian Chamber of Commerce and Industry CACI and the subsidiary of SAFEX and their Russian counterparts aimed at supporting companies from both countries in the fields of investment and trade. The two agreements were signed at the ceremony held on the sidelines of the Algerian-Russian Business Forum organized by the Algerian Chamber of Commerce and Industry CACI at the SAFEX Exhibition Center here in Algiers. The Algerian Investment Promotion Agency API has received a delegation from the Chinese company LONGi, which specializes in renewable energy, to examine the solar panel manufacturing projects that the company plans to carry out in Algeria. At the meeting chaired by the agency's Director General Omar Rikesh, the Chinese delegation led by Jean James, the company's president for the Middle East, Africa and Central Asia region, presented the broad outlines of the projects, including the various stages of its implementation and its added value, as well as the conditions required for its implementation, according to a press release from the agency. To wind up our program, the Secretary of State for Renewable Energy at the Ministry of Energy, Noureddin Yessa, has received the Director General for the Middle East and North Africa, MENA, and the Gulf region at the European Commission, Stefano Sannino, with whom he examined ways of strengthening partnership in the field of new and renewable energies, according to a press release from the Ministry of Energy, Mines and Renewable Energies. During the meeting held in the presence of the EU Ambassador to Algiers, Ministry officials and representatives of the European Commission, the two parties examined ways of consolidating the strategic partnership between Algeria and the EU in the field of new and renewable energies as part of the regular energy dialogue between the two parties. And with this, we come to the end of our weekly program devoted to Algerian economic news. Take care and bye-bye for now.
Islam has already spread into northern Africa by the mid-7th century, only a few decades after the Prophet Muhammad moved with his followers from Mecca to Medina on the neighboring Arabian Peninsula. The Arab conquest of Spain and the push of Arab armies as far as the Indus River culminated in an empire that stretched over 3 continents a mere 100 years after the Prophet's death. Between the 8th and 9th centuries, Arab traders and travelers, then African clerics, began to spread their religion along the eastern coast of Africa and to the western and central Sudan, literally land of black people, stimulating the development of urban communities. Given its negotiated, practical approach to different cultural situations, it is perhaps more appropriate to consider Islam in Africa in terms of its multiple histories rather than as a unified movement. The first converts were the Sudanese merchants, followed by a few rulers and courtiers, Ghana in the 11th century and Mali in the 13th century. The masses of rural peasants, however, remained little touched. 11th century, the Almoravid intervention, led by a group of Berber nomads who were strict observers of Islamic law, gave the conversion process a new momentum in the Ghana Empire and beyond. The spread of Islam throughout the African continent was neither simultaneous nor uniform, but followed a gradual and adaptive path. Islamic political and aesthetic influences on African societies remain difficult to assess. In some capital cities, such as Ghana and Gao, the presence of Muslim merchants resulted in the establishment of mosques. The Malian king Mansa Musa brought back from a pilgrimage to Mecca the architect As-Sahili, who is often credited with the creation of the Sudano-Sahelian building style. Musa's brother, Mansa Suleiman, followed his path and encouraged the building of mosques, as well as the development of Islamic learning. Islam brought to Africa the art of writing and new techniques of weighting. The city of Timbuktu, for instance, flourished as a commercial and intellectual center.